I wanna rock. Hello, and welcome to my review of Stephen King's It, the novel. This is Chapter 13, Apocalyptic Rock Fight. And I'm going to be talking myself through this review more slowly because this is a longer chapter, and I'm going to kind of just talk myself through remembering a lot of it because I actually read this chapter twice in one day, which is not something I usually do when I do these reviews, but I wanted to make sure I got the details because this was a longer chapter. Not quite as long as chapters like 6 phone calls, but it was still pretty up there. So, what ultimately ends up happening in this chapter is we get the introduction to the seventh member of the Losers Club being added, which is Mike Hanlon. Mike Hanlon, as a child, finally meets the rest of the group in this chapter, and I gotta say, I like how this chapter turned out. So we start this chapter in the present day, sort of like we've been doing with a lot of these chapters. Adult Mike is talking to adult Bill Denbrough. I think it was Bill. And he's being transported to the past. Bill is transported to the past as he's remembering this happening. So we start in the Barrens, and all the kids are talking about what the monster is and their encounters with it. And all of them are looking to Bill to ask what to do because Bill has just kind of asserted himself as the natural leader. And Bill doesn't really know what to do, but he's telling them about all these stories that he's read in the library about what this being could be. It has all these different names. Basically, it's like a shapeshifter type thing that takes the form of whatever you're scared of the most. And there are various legends about it. One of them that's pretty funny is they're talking about a book that Bill read where it says you had to hold your tongue, where you have to battle this monster and you end up kind of interlocking your tongue with the monster and you both have to talk at the same time and tell riddles. And whichever one of you laughs loses. And if you win, then the monster goes away. If the monster wins, then the monster gets to eat you, basically. So it was, that was pretty entertaining. I'm always entertained when the 6 of them, and now 7, are talking. But in this moment, it was still just the 6 of them. We also flash forward to Mike Hanlon as a child. Well, not really flash forward, but it's around the same time. Mike Hanlon as a child and some of the interactions he's having with Henry Bowers and his dad, Butch Bowers. And if you remember in an earlier chapter, Butch Bowers had an encounter with Mike's father where he basically went in and killed some of his chickens and tried to say it wasn't him, but then he ended up having to pay out of pocket. So Butch Bowers instilled a lot of this hatred into Henry Bowers. And Henry Bowers has been bullying Mike. There's a part in there where he basically is telling him, "You're black and I'm going to make you even blacker." And he, covers him in mud and basically beats him up. And that was really hard to read. That was very emotional for me. It was just that sort of, you combine that childhood cruelty with that sort of extreme hatred, that extreme racism and prejudice, and that is very difficult to get through, but it really conveyed the point of how a father is sort of imparting this hatred onto his son, and the son wants the affection of his father, so he is following his pattern of thinking there, and it's very sad and it's very tragic. So eventually this culminates in Henry Bowers killing Mike Hanlon's dog, actually killing his family dog, by feeding the dog this meat that's poisoned with insect poison. And the dog dies, and he tells his father about it. Henry Bowers tells his father, Butch Bowers, and his father congratulates him and lets him have a beer, and he's only 12 years old. So it's just obvious in that moment how much this hatred is just in this family, and how much this is being instilled in Henry Bowers as a child. So one day, Mike Hanlon is walking to go to practice actually for his school because he plays the trombone and he's going to practice before this 4th of July event. And the boys, as in Henry Bowers and 4 other boys, they basically catch up to Mike, chase him down, and Mike learns through this interaction through Henry's taunts that Henry has actually killed his dog. Henry's the one who did that, and he did not know that before. So Mike picks up some rocks and basically blasts Henry real good and gets him a lot of times. He cracks him in the forehead and he breaks his nose with his foot as he's climbing a fence. So at the same time this is happening, the kids in the Losers Club are down in the Barrens, and this is this is Ben, Bev, Eddie, Stan, Bill, and I knew I was going to miss one of them. I'm very sorry. I know there's like 6 of them, and I'm having trouble remembering all their names offhand because I feel kind of in the moment because I'm recording this review, but it's the 6 of them. And they're going down there, and they're playing in the Barrens, and we have 2 weird things happen. First thing is, Eddie, I think, sees in the water what he thinks are piranhas, but he doesn't know what piranhas look like, but he glances down in the water and he sees these piranhas as they're playing this game where they're being jungle explorers, and he looks down in there and he thinks he sees these terrifying piranhas down in the water as they were joking about it. So it kind of goes back to that theme of taking the form of whatever they're scared of the most. And the second thing is, as they're all going through and laughing and joking around in the Barrens, it says they're being watched by 2 eyes in one of the Morlock holes or the pipes, and the eyes are 2 feet across, and they're orange, and they're looking at them as they're playing. We got a little bit of back history here with I keep wanting to say that, with Bill's father, telling him about in the sewers, what the sewers are like and why they're so confusing and it's so easy to be lost down there, and why they're so dangerous because of the past of the tunnels being sort of badly maintained, and how you would never want to get stuck down there. Obviously, that's going to come back to play later. So, and we get a little bit more history about... Oh, yes, the other thing was we finally learn why Bill Denbrough was saying that thing, which was he thrusts his hands against the posts and still insists he sees the ghosts. That's something that his mom taught him to say to help him with the stuttering. And in his mind, if he can learn to say this correctly, then all of the darkness and all of the coldness that has occurred in the house after the death of Georgie will go away, because his mom will be proud of him again. And that is a very sad thing, but we learn that that's what was happening. He was recalling that from his childhood. So anyway, sorry, I kind of sidetracked right there. But the kids are all playing down in the Barrens, and eventually they decide they want to go do something else. So what do you know? They decide to go down to this rock place because one of the kids, I'm not sure exactly which one it is, it's either Richie or Eddie, I'm pretty sure it was Richie, had a set of fireworks. And they want to set these off, so... Actually, no, it was Stan. I think it was Stan. It's possible that it was none of those. But they decide they want to set these fireworks off in this gravel pit. So they head down there, and actually, they meet up with Mike down there. Now they get their attention sort of drawn because Mike's having trouble with the kids that are throwing these other fireworks at him. They're throwing these explosives at him as they're chasing him down, and it so happens that they hear these, and Bill gets this inkling that something's about to happen, tells them all to gather up rocks, and they go down there, and they're all in the gravel pit, and they're all getting this ready, and Mike happens to stumble down in there as he's running from the other kids, and he's standing there, and it's like they were all expecting him, and they all basically have a big standoff as the bullies come down and meet them, and they're chucking rocks, and I really like this scene because it gives you lots of details, and some of it's very cathartic, because obviously you don't like these people that are coming to chase down Mike. These are little kids, and sometimes the bigger kids do get the best of them, but it's ultimately their unity that gives them the upper hand, and all of them get bloodied up, but the other kids are in... All of the main characters in the Losers Club get bloodied up, but the other kids are in much worse shape, and Bill ends up basically saying, stay away, because the Barrens are ours, and we are going to be the ones here, and we don't want to see you here again. And I thought that was, it's a little goofy. It's sort of like it was before, where it's like, how did these little kids manage to get the upper hand in this battle against these much bigger kids? But it's done in a way that you don't really mind that it's a little bit unrealistic, because at the end of the day, there are some supernatural things in this book going on. For example, Bill knowing that the group is complete now, and him not knowing what to do before because only 6 of them were there and not the 7, and the group is complete now. Supernatural things like that are going on, so it's easy to excuse some of these other more unrealistic things. It even says at one point that they think that I think it was Mike said later down the road when they were actually having their luncheon before all the gross fortune cookie stuff happened, that they might not have even been in control of their own fates that day. There could have been other forces at work. So I kind of forgive those things a little bit. But I'm glad that we're going back to 1958 in this chapter again. This is actually part 4, which I think is called Summer of 1958. But I'm glad we're going back here again. These stories are doing a very good job of being parallel and progressing at the same time. I know this is a very difficult format to tell a story in, and I think Stephen King's doing a great job. And as we keep going, little by little, tiny gaps are being filled in with the story, and it's fun as just sort of an adventure to take as it comes. It's fun to learn about these things little by little until you finally have a more complete understanding. And while it is a little repetitive sometimes, that's the main criticism I'm having right now, it just feels a little repetitive because either the interactions are very similar, or sometimes they're predictable, or by the time that you actually get to the story, because it's been referenced before, you feel like you've already heard it before, especially if you've been taking time to breathe and speculate between chapters. But other than that, this is very fun. The pictures that are painted by Stephen King with his writing style, I know I've said this a million times, but they're still very good. The things that are funny are genuinely funny. The things that are meant to paint atmosphere, they genuinely do. You can almost smell the smells and see the sights as you're going through this book, which is not always the best thing for you, the reader. But hey, it's part of the experience of reading these types of books. So consider me a person who is having a lot of fun with this story, and I look forward to the next chapter, which will be chapter 14. I don't really have any theories right now as far as what's going to happen. I'm just kind of taking the ride as it goes, and I'm enjoying it. So if you like this content, be sure to like this content because I'll be making more of it. And if you want to see more videos, be sure to subscribe, hit the notification bell, and hit all notifications because YouTube is very, very picky nowadays with how you tell the platform that you want to see more videos of the same kind. Until next time, I will see y'all later and have a fantastic day. Bye-bye.